there's several implications of that, and there's also several other things that happen. So you have this surge of dopamine happening in your brain, and dopamine is kind of like the motivation drug, right? Like it makes you want to do more. There's a lot of other things that also happen in the when you kind of turn on the search system in a dog. For obvious reasons, we have survived because we go out and look for stuff to eat. So that's obviously a big part of what our brains are made to do. And our brains are made to keep us motivated to go out and look for stuff to eat, right? But also to be efficient at going out and finding that stuff, there are a few other things that also need to happen. We have to kind of have feelings of confidence that I am able to take care of myself, or we just kind of shut down. I mean, humans feel that too, right? And that's not necessarily only linked to dopamine. There's a lot of other chemicals involved as well, but the dopamine connection is kind of the one that's very tied to the sniffing itself, because the body has to produce it to actually transfer the molecule signals into signals that the data or into data that the brain can do something with. And that is why it's useful in shelters, because when you know that thing about like you have to go out and find motivation, and then you're gonna go do the thing, but it's kind of opposite, right? You go do the thing and then you find the motivation to keep on doing it. And so when you look at a lot of these like kind of negative cycles that humans can be in, really our brains are very similar. The dopamine systems are very similar between us and other mammals, and it kind of works in the same way. So that if you can kind of get dogs out to use those systems, they will just become happier, kind of more like if we anthropomorphize.
That's a hard anthropomorphize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
If we do that, if we do that, like we think about it, like we kind of become, happier with ourselves. We just feel more confident in our own ability to actually take care of ourselves, which makes us feel safer. All of that stuff kind of also happens in a dog. Maybe not to the level it happens in our huge brains that are capable of overthinking in a way that dogs aren't, but it has similar results. Oh, do you want to be part of this talk?
They're like, excuse me, I thought we were the stars.
Yeah. Excuse me. So you guys already do a lot of the stuff that people like me usually go out and talk about in shelters. I have kind of asked around in some of the groups that I'm part of, and people I know that do this full time for a living. Often they come out into shelters and they just start with what you guys already do. So I've already talked to Sam, right? So I know that part of you guys' kind of enrichment schedule already has set games. So the stuff that you guys do with like snuffle mats, even the Kongs, all of that stuff is actually tapping into that seeking system in the dog. And you are doing that thing where they get motivated or they kind of get cued to do sniffs that then creates the dopamine. So you guys are already like way ahead of the game. Now there's a couple of more things to keep in mind here. One is you can make it harder, and when we do hard things, we become more confident. The other thing is when you go out into a really unfamiliar, when you put yourself in a very unfamiliar situation, again, I'm talking like they are humans. I realize they are not, but just to kind of, generalize. If you see something in that unfamiliar situation that you have seen before, you instantly become a little bit less insecure about what the heck am I supposed to do here. And so that's where Pippi, seriously, that's where you can kind of take that um, and teach your dog, teach the dog skills, and take those skills, and then you can use that skill to actually create a tool to make the dog more comfortable when they're going out into situations that they're not comfortable with. So if you have a dog that knows how to find pieces of Kong, and so a good example of this is Morty was he's a pretty brave little dude, but there was some like flapping tarp things that he was just kind of like totally freaked out about. And so what I did is I actually set out a couple of hides of Kong kind of around that area and even into that area. And then I would say, go sniff. And he's like, okay, I know what that means. Okay, so I'm gonna go do that. And then we don't even like worry about like treating him for like interacting with a tarp or anything. We take away all that stuff, and all of a sudden he realized that, oh, I am searching in underneath this tarp, and he's like, oh wait, I'm in here. Okay, cool. So it can, for certain dogs, make it a lot easier to kind of handle quote unquote scary stuff, because they have this other thing that's so easy to kind of put into that environment that they're already very good at. So that's one of the things that I feel like is useful as far as what you guys can do for the dogs while they are here, and also tools that the dogs can take home with them. So that's a lot of talking, and so I figured, since you guys already do all the stuff that you're quote unquote supposed to do, how about I tell you some ideas for how you can actually take it to the next level. This is where it would have been really awesome if my husband had not taken out all the recycling yesterday, including the boxes that I told him to not take. But I will just tell you about it.
We have a lot of recycling. Do we need boxes?
Well, so I could show you like just some easy games to do with it.
Yeah.
The one thing to keep in mind when you use containers that have stuff inside for them to find is that, especially the smart dogs, they figure out like it stops becoming a hunting game for them, and it becomes more of a cognitive game. So that's a thing to be a little bit careful with. I would definitely recommend kind of moving away from that pretty fast, but it's an excellent spot to start. And so if you want to get some boxes out, just like 3 or 4 of them,
Okay.
and then I can show you. And we might even be able to like even do it with, if you guys have a chill dog here, we could even do it with him or her. But like I can just show you with Morty, because it's not like he's an expert yet. And then what I would normally do is just start with food, right? Because that's so easy, and then you don't have to transfer value over into anything else. So everybody always asks, like, what do I need to start doing scent work with my dog, and to actually teach them to find something else in food. And people think they have to go online and buy all these like scent tubes and all this stuff, and they don't know what to get, and they have to join a competition. And I'm like, no, this in here are pieces of Kong, and this is from a Kong that I cut up probably 5 years ago. They're still here. Like, I just boil them and keep using them. I've given away probably half of them, and sometimes they just get lost or they fall down somewhere, and then we have to burn down the house because now we have a hide we can't get to, but whatever. I am picky because I kind of use my dogs outside of just like this being a fun game, and I want to make sure that it's the Kong specifically, or or the odor specifically they are hunting down, and not my odor. So I use tweezers. Also makes it easier to like stuff those things into places. And then I use latex gloves, or I use this guy, and I have this little Kong, and this is just for stuff that I do where I am training these guys to find stuff with a pretty big odor cone, scent cone, in a huge field. So this is kind of like, this is my mushroom. And then of course I also have like actual mushroom scent, right? I obviously also have that as well. But a lot of the behaviors you can just teach with just pieces of Kong. And you guys give Kongs already, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what you guys are doing when you're giving those Kongs? You are creating value for the Kong scent. Also, Kong you can find anywhere, and Kong is kind of like a throwaway scent. If you're new to scent work and you mess this up, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, right? Because it's not like now you have to like retrain your dog on like an odor that actually matters to you. I was just saying to these guys, people always ask me like, what do I need to start scent work? And I said, all you need is a Kong, and you cut it up into teeny tiny pieces. And this is probably cut up like 5 years ago. Half of it I've given away, and it's still in here. And you just boil it when they've been used, and then you put them back in the jar. And pretty inexpensive activity to do with your dog, really. So,
And it's
but
okay if they swallow it?
yeah. So that is of course a concern. If I was using an untrained dog, I would not use a Kong this size.
Look at that cute little Kong.
Yeah, because I know dogs that would just go, and then it would, they would probably choke. So, choose accordingly. When it comes to these teeny tiny pieces, there has actually been a research study, and I can't quote it right now, where they have where they have looked at like how dangerous are pieces of Kong, are they toxic to a dog, and everything is toxic if you get it in big enough doses. I mean, like carrots are toxic if you eat enough of them. But there's a reason Kong is still out there. There's a reason you guys are using it in here, because we don't worry about small pieces of them coming in to their GI system. So I wouldn't worry about that, of the small pieces. Obviously that might become a training problem depending on where you want to go with it, and you want to encourage just like indicating on it. But that said, the piece of Kong I wouldn't worry about. And yes, definitely do not use this teeny tiny sized Kong with big dogs that might actually swallow them. That would be terrible. That was an excellent question. Now when it comes to like actually just teaching dogs that have never done, is she gonna beat up on him now? Pippi!
He's like, I'm holding my own, Mom.
Oh my gosh. It's like Stina brings her dogs and they're just like being total assholes the whole time. They're fighting, they're jumping up on people. Yeah, trust me, I'm an expert. I happen to live with these two lunatics and I have no idea what to do with them. But, hey guys, easy. Anyway, the boxes are for food. And the thing is, when you just have boxes, you want to kind of like make it appropriate for the dog, right? And I've actually asked around quite a bit, like, what dog do you start with at the shelter? Not one like that, probably. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, these two would be probably your top picks, because they're hyper, they're pushy, they're barky, and so but you want to avoid resource garters for the food games is what is recommended. That is where maybe transferring over to Kong might be a better game for those guys. But let me show you a game first that is good for like your normal average dogs that aren't going to bite anybody for food or anything. And you guys have probably already seen videos of this. when you have big boxes, like Morty's not going to be able to get into this box unless we do this, right? So I'll just throw some food in there. And then this also is actually excellent for just laying out and just hiding food under. So they learn to like kind of go under it and move it. And if they're scared of that, you can just move it for them. Where's the rest of my food?
We have a bunch of food.
Yeah, I got some in the car too. So you literally just like set it up. This is a pretty easy one, right? Like I put food into that one, and we have like an easy layout here of three boxes. Now, you know, after a dog is done this a couple of times, you want to make it harder. You might want to like put it up so they have to like actually stick their head in. You might want to spread it out. You can take the same boxes and even move them to another part, like another area.
Yeah.
So that's another option.
How's it going?
Hi.
Good.
You picking up a dog?
No,
Oh,
I got enough dogs.
He's helping with our fencing.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So if we let it, the human wants me to go look for stuff. And, you know, just to kind of have like a behavior in a way that makes it a little bit easier for them to context switch. So that means you can take these boxes from here and inside, outside, you can do whatever, right? You don't need to do a middle, but this is what I do. Put my hand out. And that double tap kind of like tells her, and she of course instantly found it. That little double tap kind of means for Morty, it can be the second he picks up scent that he has gotten paid for. He's like, yeah, human, leave me alone, I'm busy. For her, she's a little bit more sensitive, and she's like, what am I supposed to do here? And that little like double tap, like she just instantly goes, right? Like nose to the ground, and now she's looking at me like there's nothing here. So what do you want me to do? That I would use right off the bat, just to kind of be like even when they don't know, right? Like, and when you start out, you put treats in all of these because you want to make it easy. So you would put it like if we just pulled a dog out right now, we would probably put like 2 in each, probably a couple out on the ground, and just let him go at it. And they would pick up the scent of that stuff right away, so they would just go ahead and sniff because that's what dogs do. And we would use that to our benefit by adding the little, right? And then, I know, it's ridiculous that you keep asking me. Because then we kind of build that like, okay, when she does this, usually if I go sniff, I find stuff. So another thing to keep in mind is keep sessions short. And if they can't find anything, if they're stressing out, maybe they don't want to go into the boxes. Like there could be a million things. Maybe they just can't find it because their brains aren't kind of doing what it's supposed to do at the moment. It's totally fine to just reward the dog, have a party, and just try again. And when it becomes easy, like you guys just saw Hippie, like she kind of went like, nope, not in there. It's here, boom, that was easy. Obviously, she doesn't need to do this exercise again, right? So to keep the dogs from kind of becoming stagnant, and to also keep building that motivation and the security within the dog, you always want to try to make things slightly harder every time. Now, what does that look like in this scenario? In this scenario, that could look like I only put out, so I do one session, that was what she just had. My next session, I would put her away and I would put a treat in another box. Okay, cool, that was easy for her as well. Third session, I would come out and I would probably move the boxes further apart. Or I would put the boxes up like this, or put them like that so they actually have to push them out of the way. So those are ways you can kind of add. I wouldn't do more than like 3 sessions at a time, and then just have a huge party. So you don't just kind of like keep drilling, and then move it to different places, unless you have a dog that's very timid. But you guys are around dogs all day, so for you guys it's easy for you to see if they are kind of, do they seem more comfortable? I mean, you know these dogs, you know, after a couple days, and you can kind of see how much to push it. And just because a dog is scared of like pushing in under here, doesn't mean that, oh, now we have to stay here with these boxes for the rest of his life. Like, he's never gonna get better. Just move away from it. Like, keep progressing. So now, what was the other game with food that was? Oh yeah. So that when we go for walks, because I know that you guys have a lot of people coming over here too, helping you, taking dogs for walks. So what I will often do when I'm out with my dogs, is like, say I'm walking along this road here, and I'm like, oh, the marker's gonna be that orange pole. And as we're walking, as we're walking past, I just throw some food over my shoulder. And then we turn around after we're done walking, and then we come back and I see the orange pole, and guess what I do? Double tap, go sniff. So then they kind of can be like, oh wow, I was able to like find stuff on my walk and feed myself. That's fantastic. It's also a really good way to kind of have your, this was actually something that I didn't think about, but somebody that I talked to about this brought up, and they were like, well, humans, you just told everybody that humans and dogs both have dopamine systems. Why don't we tap into that in our volunteers as well? We want volunteers to come back. We want them to feel important here. We want them to feel like they actually contribute. So have volunteers, send them out, like teach them about this game, and be like, I don't know where you should put it. And if you have volunteers that are, you know, super crafty, like, just be like, hey, here are some games we do. See if you can come up with one. And so that kind of engages the humans a little bit too. Hippie, middle. So I would just like tell people, if you're walking into the wind, throw it over your shoulder and keep on walking. Just so like the dogs will pick up on it right away, right? So it just makes it a little bit easier. And then when they come back, cue the dog to search, and then and if they can't find it, that's also totally fine. And you don't need to like help the dog, but chances are they're gonna find it if you just kind of like if they start sniffing on the other side of the road, just kind of try to stand over on the side of the road where where the treats are, just to kind of give them an idea, right? That like, oh, I should look over here. So those are two kind of like food-based games to do, home pieces. So then they're kind of like, oh, I do this behavior, and then I get rewarded for it. And then all of a sudden they now are like, oh, Kong happened, and then I do this behavior, and then I got rewarded for it. And that's how the scent, the actual source kind of becomes almost a cue for the dog to then indicate. And what I have for indication is kind of like a nose hover. With him, I'm honestly not quite sure what his indication is going to be yet. It might be a sit and stare, it might be a nose touch, and I kind of just let that kind of develop as he develops. You know, those things are kind of like, you don't want that indication to be something that is hard for the dog to do, right? Like you want it to be something they find natural to them. So, but let me just kind of show you how I do the indication behavior. Not because you guys necessarily need an indication behavior, because you aren't necessarily gonna go out and like search for drugs with this dog that you have here, but just because it's a nice bridge behavior for your dog. So if I Pippi actually has it on a cue, so I can show you what what she does, and she's used to using this one. So I'm just gonna say, show me.
So what is that?
It's actually a tumbler that I guess juniors use to like clean stuff. I don't know how to use it. And now it's up her butt, so come on, baby. Come on, it's literally up your butt. That is just wrong. Show me. Show me. Good girl. Nice work. Nice work. And so with her, of course, I asked for duration, resiliency to distraction, all of the above, right? Because we've been doing this a lot. If I do it with him, baby, I'm gonna put you back in here. It's obviously gonna look a little bit different, especially if you haven't been doing it a lot. He's just a young pup. And I will show you, this is kind of where we have gotten to now. Go sniff. He's like, you're asking too much. Yes. Show me. Yes. So I just instantly reward him, and now I am, yes, good, okay, pick it up, where he's gonna keep on doing it. Just to kind of get him to kind of make that bridge between like, okay, I put my nose here, and then something good happens. He also can get a ball reward. It's a little sketchy, right? Because with the ball reward, you always want to reward at source, right? So then I have to throw the ball at source, and that works great for some dogs. For Hippie, she's like, no. And she will just literally just like be super offended and walk away. He is still a little kind of like, I don't understand why you're throwing this ball at me. I thought I was good. So I will just reward him with food, and then we will play ball. But if you grab a hold of him, I'm just gonna go grab my actual starter, and you need all kinds of fancy equipment like this. I would start out somewhere that is flat. He has done this already, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Morty, put it down, be ready. The second the nose goes on it, if you get this, you just start over. Put it, yes. And I do a marker with words, yes. It's also, you're kind of seeing a trainer fail here because I have treats that are hard to see for him on the ground. So I'm gonna try this. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, went down the crack.
Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to, and then the second I just pick it up. Now, what you guys have to do before you do this game with a dog is to practice your mechanics. I'm not saying you need to go home and practice for a week or anything, but just so you kind of have a feel, because your goal is to hit it right on top of the coin every time. And see, now I can't find the treats either. And as the dog gets better at it, you just move further away, and then you just throw it right at the coin. And so that's a way you can kind of build duration in that. Now, that of course is just one small exercise. When you see him search, you're not going to see him be holding, because he doesn't have that yet. But it makes it a little bit easier for you to understand that they have, it's what in the biz is called a change of behavior, or COB. And that's how you know that they've actually found it. And then you can kind of build indication behavior together from there. But so the coin is where I started. Then I went to this empty, and then I opened this guy up, and then I put the Kong pieces inside, and then we did indication on that. Now, that's when he was 4 months old. Anybody want to take a guess at how many sessions I did with Kong inside of this before he was able to start understanding that he was going to sniff stuff out when Kong was hidden other places? One time. One time. Dogs pick up on this very fast. And the thing that we don't understand is, as humans, because our olfactory systems are, theirs is far superior, is that when you put Kong out anywhere, they probably already know it's there. Like, they walk into the room and they know it's there. They might not even like know where it is, but they're like, Kong, I just want to really make sure that my odor isn't, you know, part of his picture at all, because an owner's odor is going to be very salient, right? So, but the way you kind of started, I'm going to do with him, but you can just, and then use the same thing that we do with indication, right? So he can see it, so he understands that it's there. Then you do that in those like 3 sessions, and you call it, and then you do things like, okay, I'm gonna hide it. Woody, go sniff. Go sniff.
He's like, but everybody's watching me.
Yeah, he's like, you. This is